Alrighty, guys. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. And people will keep trickling here. So, want to welcome you all to the presentation today. This is our presentation on concurrent enrollment hacks, graduate faster and pay less. We're lucky enough to be joined by Richard Leary. He's the Director of Advising and Outreach at Weber State University. So Richard came to my neighborhood where he gave a seminar on this topic, and I thought the information was just so great, so valuable for me and my wife. And my son is, he's going into 10th grade this fall, and a lot's changed in 25 years since I was last in high school. And the opportunities are just so great. There's so many options nowadays that I thought, hey, let's do a webinar and just try and reach a broader Utah audience. So he was gracious enough to do so and come on. So I appreciate him doing this for us. So let me do this. I'm going to share my screen real quick and let's see. So quick layout of the structure of the webinar. I'm going to spend the first 5 or so minutes of the presentation just to help you frame concurrent enrollment in the right light. And then Richard is going to take the meat of the time and dig at some of the hot topics that come up with concurrent enrollment, AP, scholarships, etc. There is a Q&A chat box that you guys can click on to send in questions. And I'm going to watch the chat box super carefully, so I'll make sure that you get your questions answered on the webinar here. And if we run out of time, or maybe we need more specific information to answer the question well, we can take care of those questions offline and help you as much as we can. So, real quick, who is Capita? What do we have to do with this, with concurrent enrollment? We are a financial advisory firm. We're financial advisors, and our mission is to help motivated people be financially successful. So this topic really aligns well with our mission. So if you're on this webinar, you're one of those people. Consider yourselves motivated, at least motivated enough to find ways to help your kids be in a better financial position when they graduate college, and extends to retirement as well. So we hear it so often where people are trying to get ahead, but they're buried in school debt. It affects their ability to get into a house and save for retirement. The long-term impact can be devastating. So super glad you're here and just trying to help our kids get started on the right foot. So concurrent enrollment, it's really an opportunity cost. A lot of times we think of concurrent enrollment as a way to pay for tuition, but it's so much more than that, and we need to think of concurrent enrollment in that way. So first of all, obviously it does save the cost of tuition, right? So there is money that you are not going to have to pay. There's tuition you won't have to pay when you are enrolling in concurrent enrollment. But it's the additional earnings when you get into the workforce earlier, that is the real opportunity cost here. And so when you work for a year, 2 years, you have the ability to save, and those savings can compound over time. That is how I want people to think about concurrent enrollment. And so just want to run through some of these numbers with you. So this here is a list of each University of Utah, Utah State, UVU, BYU, Weber, and the right column here is the average cost. So if this is the average cost of tuition, books and supplies, it's about $5,000 for a semester. In a year, you're paying about $10,000 for just tuition. Let's say you're a stay-at-home, right? You live at home, 10 grand a year, 20 grand over 2 years. But if you have to pay for room and board, there's extra costs in there. When you look up the numbers, they kind of give you a range of what room and board cost you. So these are pretty conservative numbers. This is at the bottom end of that range, but a full year, there's $15,000, $30,000 of savings, because Yeah, that's another year or 2 years where you don't have to pay for room and board because you got so many credits that you're saving that much time. So going back to this savings from tuition costs, yeah, that is what this is right here. You're saving on that cost, and that is huge. When we look at the amount of debt people have nationally from student loans, $38,000. In Utah, we're a little bit lower, about $34,000. If that's the average, if you're graduating in half the time, your debt as well that you're gonna have to carry is gonna be a lighter load, be cut in half, a year or 2 years less. So you have less debt, and you also have earnings, right? This is just a list of the average earnings people make in different degrees. So computer science degree, engineering degree, math and stats, right? Here's this, if you just average out all the degrees, your average pay is about 64,291. So if we just apply that number, 64,291 in a year, let's just say that's how much you're going to make right out of college. For a year, you're getting an extra $64,000. 2 years, that's an extra $128,000. Now, if you have less debt as you make your college loan payments, you're going to have, it's going to be easier to save those dollars, which you would have otherwise had to pay for college. So if, let's say, again, let's say you're living at home, you don't have as much debt, so your monthly payments are lower, it's going to be easier to save 20%. Now, there's companies as well that will match 401k contributions, and they'll do profit sharing. So if you're saving $25,000 a year, over that time, over 2 years, 120,000, $25,000 is 2 years of 20%. Plus the company match and profit sharing, you could stash away $45,000 over those first 2 years. And if you think this, then this is the next step. If you think about what's the value of those dollars, what's the future value of those dollars? This is the compounding effect. The compounding effect, $45,000. You'd be graduated and by age 21 have $40,000, $45,000 in your pocket, and that can compound for 44 years. If you run the math on that and grow it at 6%, you would have an extra. This is not the total savings. This is on top of whatever you save extra from years 21 to 65. 584,000 if it grew at 6%. 7% growth, it'd have 883,000 by the time they're 65. If you get an 8% growth rate on that, 45,000 after 44 years of compounding, that's north of $1.3 million. So huge benefit, you guys. Concurrent enrollment can have a massive impact. So again, thanks for, I'll get off my soapbox now. Thanks for bearing with me. I just wanted to frame this in the light that I feel like this deserves. And so Rich is going to take it from here. Rich, I'm going to disconnect my screen. I'll let you share your screen if you want to do that. In the meantime, if you've got questions, please go ahead and start putting those in the Q&A box, and we will we'll set those aside and make sure that they get answered. So, okay, Richard, please take it away from here.
All right. Thanks, Tim. Man, I need to hire a financial advisor. Yeah, so like Tim said, there are a lot of savings, and I'll talk more like that immediate savings of how much concurrent enrollment is versus, say, regular tuition. And this, even though it obviously is going to have a lot of a purple flavor to it, a lot of this applies to any concurrent enrollment program in the state. So if you don't happen to be taking any concurrent enrollment from Weber, or maybe just a few, because your primary institution is Utah Valley or somewhere else, this is all going to be the same information. But again, it will just have a little bit of a purple flair to it. So let's into this. So I'll talk about what concurrent enrollment is from the get-go. There's a lot of different terms out there. There's a dual enrollment term, concurrent enrollment, of course, early college, and then advanced placement, AP, IB, International Baccalaureate, and of course CLEP. So I'll talk and differentiate between those things, and then I'll talk about what the tuition of concurrent enrollment looks like versus that of regular tuition, where it's truly a fraction of those costs that Tim just went over. And then I'll talk about how concurrent enrollment can contribute to post-high school scholarships. So continuing to give you money even after a student is done with their senior year. And then, yeah, plenty of time for questions. I always say that questions are more important because that's what you actually want to learn and figure out. So plenty of time for that. So the first big thing and the main thing that we're talking about today, concurrent enrollment, is $5 per credit hour. So 1 3-credit class, which most of them are, $15. These are college classes that also count for high school credit. So think of it that way instead of the other way around, where they're high school classes that count for college credit, because this is the same curriculum as if you were to take it at Weber State. Has to reflect the exact same syllabus and everything, and the instructors also have to be credentialed in a way that would be appropriate for, say, an adjunct faculty member would, and so to maintain the quality there. Another big part of what we call dual enrollment is going to be these tests for credit, so AP, IB, and CLEP. Big caveat with this is that students have to pass the test by the end of the year. Most of these classes are a year long, but they can give college credit if you pass the AP exam. Most universities, it's with a 3, 4, or a 5. Some of them restrict them to 4s and 5s, like BYU. They are very much into the 4s and 5s. The exams are still very inexpensive in comparison to regular tuition. And students usually take these with concurrent enrollment. Every so often we'll come across a student who thinks that they need to choose one or the other. No, you can take, it just depends on what the student wants to do, what they want to study, and what maybe makes the most sense for them. And the other thing to be aware of is institutions can accept AP differently. It's possible that maybe Weber State takes a certain AP score that maybe the University of Washington doesn't. Within the state of Utah, we're all about the same, all the public institutions at least, but that can affect where that credit might be able to go. And then finally, there's early college. And this one is where students take classes just like any other standard student would after high school graduation. So you're able to get a jump start on classes that may not be offered through concurrent enrollment. So you would have this kind of targeted approach where, say, you're a student and you're interested in going into medicine, and you want to take certain classes that get you into med school. Most of those classes are not going to be offered through concurrent enrollment. And so you may be motivated enough to do early college and take those classes actually on campus or online, however they're offered. But it just gives you that little bit more flexibility to get ahead specifically for what you want to do, rather than being restricted to just what's offered through concurrent. All right, so I'm just going to compare some things to standard tuition, dive a little deeper into that. Based on this year, of course, tuition is, from what I understand, going up a little bit next year. Weber has some cool stuff going on with that, but anyway. So these are a look at what Tim showed of the credits, how many credits and how much it costs. So each college or university has a different kind of cost structure. So like at the University of Utah, they are very much based on credit hour. It goes up by credit. Whereas like Utah State University or Weber or Southern Utah, once you get to a certain credit threshold, so at Utah State, that's 12 credits, you pay the same amount as somebody who's taking maybe 18 credits. And so that's where I get those numbers from. And so as you can tell, right, you're looking at least, the 4 figures every single semester. Westminster being a little bit of an anomaly, being that they're private. And then, so anyway, right, expensive. We all know that. But with concurrent enrollment tuition, just to put it in a little bit more perspective, right, 1 3-credit class, which is typically one concurrent enrollment class, or when one college level class is going to set you back $15. If you took 15 credits, which is typically like a standard full load for a college student, right, 5 classes, $75. And then a lot of students want to pursue getting their associate's degree. It doesn't necessarily mean that's a good idea, but to also put that into perspective with 60 credits, so doing 2 years worth of college credit, you're looking at $300. There is the occasional class that maybe has an electronic book fee or something, but it's very, very unusual. So for example, 1 credit hour at Salt Lake Community College actually costs you more money than the 60 credit hours would, which is insane. And almost, to me, it sounds made up, but it's not. It's really, really cool. And so you could average a pretty significant savings. Of course, I put your mileage may vary on here, just in case, maybe you're doing AP instead, or you're going to the U versus Salt Lake Community College and maybe paying a little bit more. But for the most part, it is a fraction of the cost. Michelle, I want to address your question about any benefit to AP over concurrent enrollment. The thing with AP is that some AP exams can be really beneficial to students because of what they want to study, or because concurrent enrollment only goes so far. And the biggest example I can give you is going to be AP Calculus. The furthest that any university goes in terms of concurrent enrollment options is going to be Math 1080, which is pre-calculus for college. But anyway, AP Calculus, if a student scores high enough on it, can get you a little bit deeper into those Calculus 1, Calculus 2 classes in college, and can even give you credit for those things. And so if I have a student who I'm advising wanting to be an engineer, that's a pretty good question to ask is, would you like to take AP Calculus? Because that's the way you can really leapfrog into some of those math classes that are going to be prerequisites for all the other engineering classes that you will need. And so it can just be that, or it can be as simple as students are great test takers, so that's what they prefer. Or the teacher's really popular. We have got some teachers out there that are very high pass rate, but that's because they're also very good teachers, and students like them. So that's how AP can be beneficial over concurrent enrollment. Okay, so then scholarships after high school. So how things will look if students take any number of concurrent enrollment classes. Again, a lot of these scholarships, all but one of them that I'm going to show you, will be usable at other institutions. But for the sake of me knowing exactly how much tuition costs at Weber State, right, that's your initial cost. If you had no scholarships, you didn't have to pay for housing or anything like that. This would be your tuition cost for anywhere from 11 to 18 credits. So there are these 2 scholarships that students can earn using concurrent enrollment alone, or AP. This first one, called First Credential, it's actually currently it's called Prime, but that's going away and it will be called First Credential, but it's just mostly a name change and some other stuff that makes it actually a little more accessible. But everything should be about the same. It is a USHE funded grant, so USHE, Utah State Higher Education Commission, they will pay $500 for the first semester. Again, it's transferable to any institution. And when I say transferable, you choose the institution you want that money to go to, and that's where it will go. So, and it is deferrable though. So if you have students or you're a student who is planning to serve a mission or go into the military or anything like that, that would qualify for a deferral, that money basically just gets set aside. So that way when the student returns in a couple of years, they just reactivate it and it gets dispersed. So I put the 2025 legislation change on there just because it's not called Prime anymore, at least it won't be. Just need to graduate high school, complete a CTE pathway, so career and technical education pathway, but that can also be used with concurrent enrollment classes. And a lot of our students who are in concurrent enrollment do still earn this, even if they don't finish a career and technical education pathway per se. And then you do need to complete the FAFSA. It's not used to determine the award, but the state of Utah wants you to do that. The other one, though, that's really exciting is the Opportunity Scholarship. You all maybe have heard of the Regent Scholarship, or even a few years ago, the New Century Scholarship. This has replaced both of those things. Again, it's funded by USHE, and the important part there is you can take it anywhere you want in the state of Utah. It's $1,000 for 4 semesters, so for 2 academic years, you get $1,000, which is a pretty huge scholarship. And it is stackable in the sense that, say you get a $1,000 scholarship at the university, so Weber State gives you $1,000. This can come in and stack on top of that, and you can have a total of $2,000. Requirements here: B+ GPA average in high school. You need to complete 3 courses: one that's an advanced English class, one advanced math, and one advanced lab-based science class. So I put an example on here of concurrent enrollment, English 1010, CE Math 1030, and then CE Geo 1110. There are, I don't even know how many thousands of combinations you could do this in, but somebody who's maybe a mathematician here could figure it out. But you could do AP English, AP Calculus, and then take Physics 1010 or AP Physics, and it would still all count just fine. You also don't need to pass the AP exam either, just a caveat. But this one is if students do this, they pretty much just need to click the apply button, and they'll get the scholarship. So that one's really fun. And suddenly, with those 2 things put together, at Weber at least, you're looking at a little less of a bill coming out. And so with that, there are a couple others. There's this Concurrent Enrollment Edge Scholarship. Now, this is the one that is specifically at Weber State, but I do know that the University of Utah and a few of the other state schools now have a very similar scholarship, where if you take a certain amount of concurrent enrollment classes and do well enough, you can get some money. But so at Weber State, the scholarship award for this is another $1,000, but for 8 semesters, so for 4 years. You maintain full-time status of credit, so anywhere from 12 to 18, and then keep the 2.5 GPA. And then there's something called the confirmation of interest you would have to fill out your senior year. But the big thing with this is that it's only 9 concurrent enrollment credits in any of them. It does not matter. It also doesn't really matter if it's from Weber State or not. So if you were to take all 9 credits through Utah Valley, it's okay. Those will still work. And then your GPA in those concurrent enrollment classes needs to be a solid 3.0. You got to graduate high school. And this is one that's automatic. Again, I know there's a one at the U. I just learned what it was called, and I can't remember now, so I apologize. But and there's one at Utah Valley. Very, very, very similar. And then there's this Promise grant. This one here, this one we like to include, even though it doesn't necessarily mean that you take concurrent enrollment classes, but there is this scholarship that is based on FAFSA and financial need, but can be awarded up to the cost of attendance for 120 credits, so for a full bachelor's degree. This is possible. So anyway, so if you add the CE Edge scholarship, suddenly your 4 figures turns into high, medium 3 figures. And that doesn't include FAFSA or any other scholarships that students may be able to stack on top of that as well. And so with concurrent enrollment, right, the immediate saving of only $5 per credit hour can also continue on past high school graduation. So some frequently asked questions that we get a lot. Again, these span the state, so it's not just specific to Weber. First one is, do concurrent enrollment credits expire? No. They're just like regular college credits would appear on a student's transcript. There's no like delineation that says student took these in high school or anything like that. They're all treated exactly the same. Math credits, a lot of folks say that they've heard that math credit expires. No, it never goes away either. What does expire there, though, is the ability to move further into the next math class. So say you have taken concurrent enrollment math 1050, and so the next math class would be math 1060. But you go on a mission, or you wait 2 years to take the next math class. Your placement has now expired. And so you would have to retest into being able to take that next math class. That's what expires. Do these credits transfer? Absolutely. They're intended to go with you anywhere you really want to go, especially within the state. Going out of state, again, every university sees these credits and they transfer them just like any other standard student would. The other one is I want to take as many credits as I can through concurrent enrollment because it makes sense. You should take as many credits as you can. But sometimes we get students running into taking more credits than they need to, where maybe they don't realize I've earned 60 credits, I've gotten my associate's degree, but I didn't start on math in the right way. And so now I still have 3.5 years to graduate with my bachelor's because I need to start from the beginning with math. And so there are different degrees and pathways and things that maybe getting an associate's degree really quick like that won't take the amount of time off of going to college as one might think. And also once you get to about I think it's 150 total college credits, you'll start running into financial aid and scholarship issues. So it's good to not take everything under the sun. How do I transfer AP scores? Once again, this is something that's unfortunate. You can't just transfer AP scores from one institution to another. You have to have the College Board send official scores to every institution. Transferring concurrent enrollment credits. There's no extra complicated piece here as well. You just order official transcripts just like you would as a standard student. This one is really important. When applying to schools during senior year, am I considered a transfer student? No. Please apply to your colleges as a first-time freshman. It doesn't make sense because you do have credits to transfer, but you've taken these classes before you truly graduated high school. And so you would be considered still a first-time freshman, and you want to definitely do that because first-time freshman scholarships are usually more generous, and there are more of them versus a transfer student's scholarship opportunity. And so those credits will still transfer. So if you have 35 credits, you'll still be a sophomore standing if you went to another university and transferred over. And again, I like to hammer it home that yes, concurrent enrollment is inexpensive and it can be a huge, huge help to a family's budget. But it's not necessary that not all concurrent enrollment credit is created equal for everybody. And so what I or one of my advisors would say to a student who wants to go into nursing is going to be entirely different than somebody who wants to go into physics or really any other. They're all different. Some of them vary, some of them closer to another. But just keep that in your mind that if you're at UVU or you are at SUU or Utah State, definitely make sure you're checking with an advisor if you are starting to take up a lot of credits or you're starting to think, yes, I know what I want to study, so I need to have a specific track in mind of how to do that the most effectively. All right, so Tim, I'm done, but leave this to the crowd to see what they need.
Yeah, if there's any questions that you guys have, now is the chance to go ahead and ask if you want to type it in. But so Richard, one question I had, what if you don't know, what if you don't know what pathway your kid wants to get into and you just say,
Yeah.
hey, I want to cover my bases here. I'm not sure what they're going to specialize in or what degree they want or even what school to go to. How should you think about concurrent enrollment, AP classes? What would be the general, hey, if you don't know, kind of take this approach with it?
Yeah, that's a really great frequently asked question, actually. So the sweet spot is something called the Certificate of Completion in general education. And that is actually designed to transfer between the institutions. What it does is it does give you a college credential still, and it locks in your general education classes, whether you are at Weber State or you go somewhere else. It will follow you and kind of wipe that clean so that way students can just move forward into what they'd like to study a little bit quicker. And so that's going to be your English, your math, your U.S. history, and the creative art, social sciences, kind of these that are required of every student, no matter what you decide to study. And so it can be a good spot to start. It can also, help students explore maybe what they want to study. Maybe they don't realize that they don't know they want to design video games, but they take a creative art class that is about video games, and then they decide they suddenly want to do that. The other one, though, too, that we encourage students to do in this regard is to find internships or do job shadowing, or really anything extracurricular that one may be interested in. Those things are just as important to put on resumes at that age. And there are also some majors, for instance, it's not a major, but students who want to go into medicine, go to med school. First thing we tell them is there are these classes that you're going to need to take that you shouldn't take until you know you need them. Go shadow a doctor. And then, of course, if you don't know what you want to study, but you're thinking of medicine, go shadow a bunch of folks. I don't know. And so to answer your question, Tim, the certificate of completion in general education is really that sweet middle spot of if you do know what you want to do, then great. It's a great starting spot no matter what you want to study.
A question came in, Spencer. Should kids start in CE as a sophomore, junior, or senior in high school? When do you typically see kids start CE?
Okay. So concurrent enrollment as a sophomore, most high schools, all of the ones that Weber State interacts with at least, restricts 10th graders to a very select, maybe 10 different concurrent enrollment classes. And so there's just not very many to take for students to maybe get started in concurrent enrollment. We like to tell 10th graders, take one, maybe take two, one per semester and see what you like, and go from there. Most students, though, for the most part, start their junior year. That is when the concurrent enrollment crop of classes really opens up and students have a much larger catalog to choose from. And then we have some who start their senior year just because they just haven't, it's just their pace. That's what they wanted to do. So we typically see students, students starting their junior year. And if a student really wants to earn something, though, at the same time as graduating high school, starting your sophomore year and just giving yourself that much more time to spread out your credits can be can really make things a lot easier and straightforward. So what year they should start, I hate that cop-out answer of it depends. It depends on your student, but it truly does depend on the student.
Which is, I mean, sometimes you go in and you speak with a counselor and you want to get like some really good guidance and help. And I think, and Rich, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like if the more honed or the more your child knows what they want to do, the better answers you're going to get from that counselor, right? Because it seems like it is kind of hard. But another thing I remember we had talked about is like there are courses that are required during high school, like PE, physical education, right? You can usually take that online. I know in Davis County they have Davis Connect, online classes, and you could take an online PE course, and that would free up you a semester basically of time where there's more CE classes or AP classes that are going to be offered during the school year than are offered during the summer. So if your kid has more time in the summer to maybe they're playing video games all summer, they could do an online PE class and get some credit that would free up their time so they could take advantage of all the options that they have during the school year. Is that right?
Yeah. So and to expand on that, most concurrent enrollment classes, well, all of them will count for something at your high school. And so it's not like you're taking additional classes. So the concurrent enrollment United States history class also counts for high school United States history. And so you're not taking like extra classes, but the way to kind of make things really manageable is just like what Tim said. There are students, I've got students who take like they do packet, we call them packet, where they do an entire class, over the summer through a packet and an online system. It just depends on the program, but to kind of get these other things out of the way, like PE and that kind of thing.
So these packets are all this is all online stuff, right? Because the question came into our CE offered online, in person, or both. So it seems like both would be the answer here.
Yeah, so CE is primarily in person. It depends for now, anyway. It depends on the school district that you're in. So, like Tim said, Davis School District's really fortunate in that they do have a really nice online system that there are about 14 or 15 concurrent enrollment classes offered through Davis Connect. And they're actually very, very great courses for those general education requirements. So it is possible. Weber School District has Weber Online. There's far fewer. Um, I do I do know just recently the state legislature this last session did um, pass something where it'll allow for a lot more online offerings of concurrent enrollment, and so that's coming down the pipe. How that actually looks, um, legislature passes bills and then we have to figure it out. And so we'll see what that actually looks like. But Spencer, for right now, there's a decent amount offered online if you're in Davis School District. But anything anywhere outside of that can get a little dicey. They're usually just in person.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Raise your hand or type it in the chat. If that is all, then we can probably wrap up. This is recorded, so if you want to refer back to it, we can send that to you. But Richard, where can people contact you? Oh, we do have another question. Thanks, Michelle. Does BYU Hawaii accept AP or CE credits the same as BYU Provo? Great question.
Man. Um, BYU is interesting as they seem to change their rules year to year, which they can because they're a private institution. But for the most part, the concurrent enrollment credits transfer all the same. There's actually a transfer guide that you can find. If I had it handy, I would just send it to you right now. But if you just Google BYU Hawaii transfer guide, you'll be able to find that, and it can be really useful for finding out what classes from any institution, kind of play around with it, that goes there. BYU Provo, they do also have something similar where you can actually turn on and off if your student has earned the general education certificate or not. And it will show you how that works as well. I don't think BYU Hawaii has something similar. Michelle, sorry, the answer for you, unfortunately, is I'm not 100% sure, but they're usually pretty much the same between BYU Hawaii, Provo, or Rexburg, Idaho, BYU Idaho.
Let's see, another one came in. Who should students contact to get additional info on CE?
All right, so Spencer, where are you located? What county are you in? Weaver County. Okay. So in your school district, same thing with Davis and Ogden school districts. So if there are any folks there in any of those districts, if you just go into your high school counseling office, there is an employee of mine who is stationed there at least one day per week. Depending on the high school that your student goes to, may even be 2 or 3 times per week. But you can sit down and get one-on-one advising from how do I get started to all the way to I want to get my associates. And so that's the way to kind of get very personalized one-on-one advising. We are also, my team and I also work all summer. And we're open and ready for appointments then as well. And so we'd encourage you to reach out that way. And the email address to best reach out to, it's going to be ceadvising@weber.edu. And then we can do Zoom, or you can come to campus or anything like that. But yeah. And then your high school counselors and even junior high counselors, they're fairly well versed. Since we've been out there for a little while, we've been able to work together quite a bit. So they have a lot of good general info.
Yeah, be proactive. I think that's probably the best advice. Reach out to people, get help. ceadvising@weber.edu. Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That works.
Perfect. Go talk to your counselors. Get signed up. Right now, counselors at the high schools are emailing parents. They're trying to get kids signed up for classes next year. They're going to be in the summer. Make sure you get in touch with them. Get a plan put in place and take advantage of the opportunities there. It's amazing. I wish I had this opportunity when I was in high school. Really cool. All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much, Richard. Thank you again. Really appreciate you taking the time. And if anybody else has any questions, feel free to reach out. Richard, do you have an email or email to your team, or is that the CE advising goes to your team?
Yeah, the CE advising at weber.edu. We're a team of 12. And so you'll get a lot more eyeballs on it than just mine.
Nice.
And you'll get a response pretty darn quick.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, hey, everybody, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And go get them.